guys? Welcome back to the Overtalk podcast. This is your host, Highway, here. As you can see, I'm in a very different situation and sound very different as well, but we'll come back to that. I'm here with our lovely co-host, Ara Mori, who's going to talk about a lot
Hi,
of stuff that I don't know anything about. More on that soon too. But I'm happy to be back. It's good to see you again, Ara Mori. How you been doing?
I've been all right. Been a little bit sick. This past weekend, played in some tournaments. Been scrimming. Been on the grind. But yeah, been mostly pretty good. All right. But how about yourself? Because I know you've had a bit of a journey since we've last got to sit down. So go ahead. Tell me how you've been.
Yeah. So I've moved back to to yeah, I could say it. Why not? I was worried about being doxxed for a second. I'm gonna give I've moved back to Virginia from California. We're opening another office out here in my home area, so I'm going to be leading the front on that. So I've moved from here to California and back to here just this last week. I also entertained my co-founder. He came out here as well, and I showed him around the hometown and showed him stuff
Oh,
too.
that's cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. A lot of people think that Virginia is like out in the sticks, and they don't realize that there's like parts of it that are actually really insanely developed, right? They think we're all swamp people, but anyway, point is, entertained him, and now I'm here. My PC shipped from UPS, and they broke it, so I don't have a setup. I'm
Classic.
also in a I'm also in a new house, so I barely have any furniture. Um, so that's the reason for all of this right now is I wanted to do the podcast, but I don't really have anything. I mean, you can see the remnants of my old PC right there, all taken apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I could take pictures to show the damage and stuff from my UPS claim. But with all the stuff that I have, I'm hopefully gonna have them ending up paying for a new computer now. So hey, whatever. It's
Hey, free
not
PC.
exactly a win-win, but I mean, pretty much, yeah. So anyway, otherwise, I've been doing pretty good. I have not, because of all this moving, because everything going on, I have not kept up with Overwatch as much as I would like to. So we're gonna go on a little journey here because you have obviously, um, and I'm gonna be like the granddad who doesn't know anything about what you're talking about, but is happy to listen anyway. So
All
what do
right,
we have first
Grandpa.
on our docket here?
So first thing we're gonna get into the whole podcast. Okay, first of all, this week is gonna be talking mostly about season 5 and the new patch notes that come with that. But first we gotta talk a little bit about some community news. There has been an absolute buttload of community-run tournaments this week. To name a few that were announced or even took place this weekend, we have the Toronto Pride Cup. Okay, so LGBT inclusive community that's being run, I believe, next weekend. This weekend we had the Timeless Content Creator Cup that took place, and I played in Friday and Saturday. And then Saturday and Sunday this weekend we had the Matrix June tournament, which is just a random guy who said, "Okay, I'm gonna put up $500 plus however many likes this tweet gets," and they're running that tournament right now currently. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome!
lots of community run tournaments, and I just wanted to briefly share that and talk about it because I think it's so good and so healthy for the scene, and it's so much fun to participate in and see, you know, all of these content creators and streamers and pro players coming together to compete. Super cool, super fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is really how it could have been from the start, though. You know, like when Blizzard came in and kind of took the scene completely over by just passing all the old regulation, which basically said there can't be other tournaments other than Overwatch League and contenders. They kind of killed a lot of that grassroots
Yeah,
vibe
yeah.
that people have with a lot of esports. So I agree with you. It's great to see a lot of tournaments coming out and seeing more of that because I mean I always love taking part in those in previous games. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a good thing.
Yeah, in addition to talking about tournaments as well, the Overwatch League Mid-Season Madness tournament ran this weekend in South Korea and finished, okay? So let me see where you're at with the Overwatch League. Who do you think would win a tournament like that? Do you have any idea, or are we just completely grasping at straws?
Nothing. No idea who would win that tournament right no, not at all. It's like I said, it's been like weeks because I had to plan my move out here. I was with my co-founder literally the
Mhm.
entire week. We stayed in this house, and then now I'm dealing with a broken computer. So I have no idea. It would just be picking a name out of a hat,
All
basically.
right, Grandpa.
So why don't
All
you
right, Grandpa. Okay, so this season on Overwatch League, the Atlanta Reign has been supreme. Like they have been untouchable, and definitely during this mid-season madness tournament, they came in, they played, and they rolled. I think they lost a total of 2 maps, and it was only to the runner-up team, I believe, that they lost those maps. I could be completely talking out of my butt, but I believe that is
say?
what happened. So yeah,
Who was
Atlanta,
the runner-up team?
Houston Outlaws. The Outlaws coming in
Wow.
strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's good to hear.
yeah, the only team that the Outlaws lost to was Atlanta, once in the winners bracket and once again in the losers bracket for grand finals. Yeah, so crazy tournament. 500K to first place. I believe it was 200K to second place. So they're getting their bag. And something kind of funny happened at the event where the Toronto Defiant tweeted out that the Ordinary Ordinary Heroes band, which is a Korean rock star band, was at the event, and you could see them on screen. So it's really funny. Um, there's some pictures with Sean Miller with the band there after the event. It's just something kind of interesting. I did not think I would see a Korean rock star band at an Overwatch event.
Yeah, that's definitely different. It seems like and I think at one point they also had like a Korean rap. I want to say it was a rapper on like one of the main menu songs at some point as well,
Yeah,
or was it a
maybe.
pop song? I forget, but they had some Korean pop song or rap song if I remember correctly. And I just remember the reason why it comes to memory is that I definitely feel like they're trying to follow in the footsteps of Riot a little bit with what they do with League of Legends as far as all that kind of stuff goes. They're kind of getting more into that culture, which is good. But yeah, I mean that's definitely interesting. I mean, what do you think? Were they any good?
I have no idea. I have not heard any of
Okay,
their
fair
songs.
enough.
No,
I
no, it's such a great thing to see, and the fans there that were at the event, you could feel the energy from the crowd. And, we don't have a lot of LAN events anymore in Overwatch, unfortunately. I feel like we did maybe towards the beginning of the Overwatch League, season one, I think it was like every game, right? I can't even remember. It was such a long time ago, but they were all just based in Cali, and they just had like every game being a live event. Like that energy is so different now, and it really like builds into the hype. um so I wanted to briefly talk about what makes Atlanta such a good team. But I know you don't know anything about what's going on over there.
well,
So
let me break it down for you. All right.
yeah, go ahead, yeah.
No, sorry, no, don't, please don't make me embarrass myself. Um, yeah, I don't know. It sounds like they know what they're doing though. They only lost. How many rounds did they win? Do you know? Like, what was their issue? They only lost two. How many did they play?
Oh God. Well, there was, God, how many teams? Okay. Overwatch League
Just gotta
mid-season
look it up.
madness bracket. Hold on, we're getting to the bottom of
Now
this.
who doesn't know anything? But no, like, it doesn't surprise me. Atlanta's always been a pretty good team. Like, just
Hmm.
since because they were an expansion team.
Oh
So
yeah, I
even when
forgot
they
about
first
that.
came into the league, they were really good. They picked up a lot of talent at the time. I think Gator was a pickup on one of their very first additions to their roster, and I think he does he still play for them? He does, right?
No, so Gator now is their head coach. So he was responsible for
Okay,
kind of like
gotcha.
helping put the roster together. Um which their roster this year is pretty crazy. They have their most notable player is Stalker, who was like pretty much benched all last year, I believe, on Seoul. And then, in a player interview, they said, "Oh, so what makes this year so different from last year?" And he's like, "Oh, well, playtime. I get to actually play. And now he's like last season proper, like he's just crazy, a machine. And I'm actually looking at the bracket right now. So Atlanta lost 3 maps, all of them being to Houston, and none of them in the same, or not all three of the same series. So two in the winners, and then once they knocked them down, they lost one in the finals. The finals was a stomp. Like there was just no
Oh yeah.
contest. Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Does it say how
Other
many they won?
what do you mean?
Well, like what was their map record? Is basically what I'm asking.
Uh
They had 3 losses. How many
they
wins?
won I think it math they won 10 maps total and lost 3.
Okay, gotcha. That's
Mhm.
pretty good.
Yeah. Um
That's pretty solid.
so some of the other notable teams, we had Florida kind of show up in a really big way. They came in 6th seed, and kind of had to just kind of fight their way through. But they ended up coming in 3rd place, and they lost to Houston. Okay, so Houston beat them out right at the end. But yeah, they showed up in a pretty big way. All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting too hearing that Houston is like coming back as a competitor as well, because
I
like
know.
for a long time they've been a very mid team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
It's also good to hear Florida is doing good as well, because I'm going to be honest with you, the only my favorite colors team is Florida's, the pink and the blue and the black, honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's probably the only jersey that I would actually want to wear. No offense to any of the other teams or anything, but just like I think it's just the best one, honestly. And I think it blows the other ones out of the water.
You don't like the Hangzhou colors? The pink and the blue and the white, like the more pastel? Vlad's also
That's not
changed
really
their
my
colors
thing.
this year a little
The
bit.
Glads changed their colors.
Hmm.
I feel like I remember seeing that a while ago, but I don't even remember what they changed it to. What
Yeah,
did they change their colors?
they've always been that like kind of like dark, like royal purple in like a
The
way.
purple and the black. Yep.
Hmm. And this year they went for more of like a lighter purple, like a brighter purple with like a pink and
Mm,
white like undertones. So if you look at their skins in game, they're like purple, pink, and like white. It's so gorgeous. They look so good. Um I think they
okay,
actually have
I
some of the
hear that.
coolest skins in the game now this year.
And I'll say a
Um
lot of the skins are better than the jerseys as well.
yeah,
Like
I
the,
think
the
so
colors
too.
in game they pop a lot more than
Yeah.
a lot of them do in person. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, just a random like random tangent. I think that Florida has my favorite colors, which is
Yeah, they're
funny
good.
because they had the worst colors originally. So
Yeah, the McDonald's Florida Mayhem. I feel like if you have
whew,
McDonald's Florida Mayhem skins in game, you're like a legend. Like everybody's like, "Oh my god."
yeah, the McDonald's tourbillon is pleasing.
My thoughts exactly. All right.
Yeah.
So moving on, earlier this week we had a new season come out, and with a new season, season 5, came a new set of patch notes, okay? So nothing too crazy. Um, to keep you kind of updated on what meta looked like a bit. Um, at the end of last season, Junker Queen, like their mid-season patch change, Junker Queen was buffed to the nines, and she was already being played. Like she was already good, right? And so,
Yeah, it just made her insane when they buffed her. Really, it did. But
yeah.
anyway,
So, to kind of compensate for the fact that she could melee knife people and okay, my cat. Sorry. She could kind of
that's okay.
like melee knife people and get like a 200 HPS per second. They said, okay, we're gonna nerf her shout. So here in the patch notes it says, um, let's see. The last round of Junker Queen changes increase both her sustained damage and self healing. Hence, she ends up staying alive in the fight longer, which was the intent. But naturally, her ultimate charges very quickly. Oh right, they nerfed her ultimate as well. Um, so they said to bring her survivability more in line, we're shifting some of the power out of commanding shout. So instead of nerfing her passive change, which she gets with the melee or the axe, they ended up nerfing her shout. So instead of giving 200 HP, it now gives 150. So I kind of understand the thought. They're like, oh, she's getting too much health and living for too long. But instead of like changing it from like the melee or the axe, they changed it away from her shout. So slight nerf. They also increased her ult charge by 15%, but I think she's still kind of like still strong, right? The thing that made her strong before was like the just the fact that she could just run in and just melee people. Like it was literally a strat to go in and just melee as many people as you could. And I'm not even talking about like an ability, like just straight up just like punch people, right? Because all of the people that she hits, she gets her passive like self-healing from. And the more people she hits, the more self-healing she gets, right? So I don't know. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
and honestly, I think that I'm glad you asked. I think that the big problem with this is we're seeing the major flaw in Blizzard balancing with Overwatch, and it's trying to address the problem without addressing the problem in all their changes. Like rather than accept that, okay, maybe we tuned her self healing to be too much, right? And let's just revert some of these changes.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like, okay, well let's tweak other things that might create a whole new set of problems or make the game worthless. We don't know. Let's go down that route and not the one that we kind of understand where the
Right.
fault is, right? So they're changing other abilities that aren't the problem to try to compensate for an ability that is the problem, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like it's as old as dirt. I mean, they've always done this
Classic
with Overwatch,
Blizzard.
even since Overwatch One. This has always been a thing we go down, a road we go down. And then it's like, okay, well, we can't figure out how to make the character not be OP without attacking this one ability. So we're just gonna do insane nerfs across the board and take them out of the meta for another 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I don't know. I mean, honestly, I wish they would just sometimes go back on what they do and accept, like, okay, that change was a mistake. Whatever. Let's go and revert it, and let's try buffing her. I would rather them revert a change and then try to buff her in a different way than
Yep.
just nerf her in a different way. You know what I mean?
I
Because then
agree.
when you circle back around, it's like, okay, she needs buffs again. Now you're just all sorts of confused, right? You don't know where to start. Sometimes you just need to go back to the beginning, say, okay, we made her too strong. Let's bring it back and let's try approaching it a slightly different way. But it is what it is. What else do we have for changes so far?
All right. So for Roadhog, they gave him a slight buff. For his take a breather, he now gets amplified healing by 50%, 2.5 seconds after finishing take a breather. So he goes in, takes some damage, he chugs his health back up, and then whatever healing is done to him is increased by 50%. Interesting change. I don't really think it's gonna do much. What are your thoughts?
Not yet, not yet. I can see how that's going to be ridiculous when he's strong again, but right now, I don't think so. I can just imagine a world where, sorry, my throat's kind of
You're
giving
good.
out a
You're
little
good.
bit, but I can see a world where a Roadhog goes in with Nano and just sucks on his little tube, right? And it's just impossible to kill while he's running your team down with a Lucy. I can just envision it in the future. So when we come back to a Roadhog meta, and there's a Roadhog running right in the middle of your team, sucking on his tube, all right, and then he uses his ultimate and is completely unkillable no matter what you do. Remember, I warned you. Okay, you remember that. But no,
uh
I agree with you. Right now, not that big of a deal. Not going to be super strong. Not going to shake anything. But it
no.
does concern me that they're giving another tank more
Yeah, it's like a stealth. It's like a
recoverability.
stealth buff that we're not gonna see for a couple months, right? Like until he gets any other changes, and then we're like, wait a second, what? Why is this a thing?
Why will he not die? Why was he 5 HP and a 600 instantly?
Right.
But like, I'm also worried that they're giving another tank a boost to their recovery. I'm worried we're starting to see a new type of creep entering into the game where pretty soon all the tanks will not need a support anymore. Which don't get me
Mm.
wrong, Blizzard. I also hate supports. All right, I hate support players. I get it. I'm with you. All right, but let's not over crank the tanks here to beat up the supports. All right, I think that might be a step too far.
It's interesting you say that because a kind of like niche part of the Junker Queen meta when before this change came through was you don't really need like it was like Kiri the meta was Junker Queen, Genji, Ashe, Kiriko, Lucio, and you didn't really need your Kiriko to be with your queen if you were playing it correctly. Your Kiriko could kind of just do her own thing and kind of just like help your Ashe and Genji when needed, and then your Lucio just stayed with your Junker Queen, so she didn't get completely like run over. You don't need like when you have a hero that gets 200 HPS per second on her own, she doesn't need Kiriko tickets. Like Kiriko tickets are what, like 70 HPS, 60 HPS, something like that. Um,
Something in that realm. Yeah, I think they
yeah,
do. Doesn't each flurry do like a 132 or something?
sure.
Or am I tripping? I
That's
think
my
so.
sure, that's my best guess. Right? Like but she just doesn't really need it. Not to mention like Queen's hitbox is kind of like small compared to some of the other tanks, so she just doesn't really she's not as big. She doesn't take as many
Yeah, no,
hard
I agree.
hits.
Yeah,
So Genji also this patch got a bit of a stealth nerf. I don't believe this was originally in the patch notes. I think this was just something that was in the game and people were like, why did Genji get or it was a stealth buff, sorry. Why did Genji get buffed? So his maximum ammo is increased from 24 to 30. It seemed like it was unintentional and then they just put it in the patch notes. So I guess it was something that they just forgot to add. But yeah, slight Genji change. Yeah. I mean he was already being played,
I'm
so
okay with that. I'm okay with that. I don't like reloading as much on Genji.
mhm.
Um, I'm okay with the ammo change nerf. It's more of a quality of life thing, realistically.
Right.
Like, if you're smart enough on Genji, sorry, hold on.
Go ahead.
If you're smart enough on Genji, you'll be able to. You won't need 30 shurikens to fight somebody, right?
Mhm.
And you'll just reload before you go into a battle. But I don't know. Sometimes I just forget, man. Sometimes I'm just spamming, trying to get 3% on my ult or whatever, and then I go for the dash right click ult combo, and I'm like, sucks. Happens all the time, really. But that's just how it is. So I'm okay with it. Not really an insane change. And I don't know if they got rid of Nano Blade, Genji wouldn't be too big of a deal. So whatever.
Mhm.
He's not that annoying to play against
Yeah,
Genji wise.
I don't think it's gonna be that big of a change. It's just like a small, almost like a quality of life thing. Speaking of quality of life changes, there has been a small nerf to Reaper and Moira. So Reaper's Wraith form and Moira's Fade can no longer be activated while affected by mobility locking effects. So this is things like Junkrat's Trap, Graviton, and we'll circle back to this because I know you haven't been here, Grandpa, but Cass's magnetic grenade. Okay, so there has
I do
been
know about this.
there has been some cast changes, some sniper changes, and we will get back to those right after we talk about BetterHelp. Okay. All right. So just a brief reminder that Overtalk is sponsored by BetterHelp. Um, um, for me, I spend a lot of time, scrimming, practicing, really putting in a lot of energy into competitive Overwatch. And that could be a lot. It really can. Like, I think most gamers can relate to not understanding, just how much time you're putting into. My cat is also scratching again. Um, Not understanding how much time you are putting into like competitive gaming, and then you put in 10 hours and you're like, oh my god, where did my day go, right? Like you just put in so much time and energy, and you just get kind of like caught up in it in every single day, right? And when you're putting in all that time, right, you kind of maybe forget to kind of take care of yourself and your own needs and kind of forget to like check back on your mental, right? So when we spend all of our time like putting in energy, it can leave us feeling like really stretched thin and kind of like burnt out, right? Like burnout is a huge problem. We talked about it in the past on this podcast, but burnout is a huge problem for gamers and myself specifically, right? So BetterHelp and therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself feeling left behind or just completely burnt out. I personally in the past have struggled with my own, mental health challenges. I'm pretty open with that, right? I've talked about it before. Um, I've been going through some tough times, right? And I have, I've been going to therapy, right? I've gone in the past, and it's been helpful, right? Like during times in my life when I've kind of been down the darkest of roads, it helps to have someone to kind of like sit down and talk to, and to just kind of like help guide you through those moments, right? Um, it helped me open up about what I can do to kind of like put myself back on the rails, kind of learn how to cope, especially with life just kind of like is throwing everything at me, right? Like it's nice to be able to sit down and be like, okay, what can I do to actually, fix this problem? And therapy kind of gives you the tools to do that, right? Therapy can also help you become the best version of yourself. If you want to become more confident, set your own boundaries. Therapy and BetterHelp can help you accomplish that. If you think that therapy could benefit you at all, please give BetterHelp a try. I know that for me personally, a lot of the downsides to in person therapy was just that, right? It was in person. And for someone who struggled a lot with like anxiety, that was a huge, huge hurdle for me to get over. Like going outside was a struggle in of itself. And a lot of times it just wasn't feasible for me to get up and go, right? Having it being entirely online is a huge relief, and it's completely convenient and flexible to your own schedule. All you need is to fill out a quick questionnaire to be matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch your therapist at any time for no additional charge. Um, Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/overtalk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/overtalk. And again, thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this episode of Overtalk. Appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I just I want to follow up because if you guys remember the last time we had BetterHelp on, I mentioned that my one of my roommates at the time actually used their service and then found a bunch of courses and stuff that were very helpful to them. I, as part of my job, we end up working with a lot of veterans and a lot of first responders and that kind of stuff. I'm a real estate agent on the side, but we end up working with a lot of vets and a lot of those kinds of people. And something very prevalent in that community, and anyone can pretty much tell you this who has been in that community at all, is PTSD.
Right.
Very, very rampant problem that a lot of them have, and they kind of get one of the big hurdles for them is not feeling like um they're like feeling like they're too tough to need therapy, or like that they don't need it because they can just get through the problems themselves, and that kind of stuff. And I've seen firsthand how it helps a lot of people who have felt that way and then completely change their mind when they absolutely try it and see what therapy has to offer. But anyway, point I'm trying to make is I've noticed that in one specific group, I don't want to say which group because I don't know if there's sponsored conflicts or what the deal is, but I know the members in that group have used BetterHelp. And if I remember correctly, one of them mentioned that they actually have courses and things for first responders and for
Mm-hmm.
policemen and for, you know, vets and all that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
yeah, and they have all enjoyed it as well. So BetterHelp truly does have stuff that will help you regardless of where you're from, what you do, or any of that. Please consider checking it out. Everyone that I've gotten into it absolutely loves it. So take the first steps for you, for your mental health, by going and taking a look at it, because like Armor said, in-person therapy can be pretty intimidating. And this is all online. You can switch your therapist. You can, I mean, there's less pressure. I feel like
Yeah,
with
yeah.
BetterHelp. So
I definitely feel like to maybe go on a little bit of a tangent, but to find a therapist in person, you're pretty limited to who's like in your area. And if for some reason like you go to a therapist and it doesn't work out, it's like a much bigger commitment. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot harder to go to someone and be like, "Yeah, so that didn't really work out," than to like be online and just like be able to just like switch whenever. Especially cuz it's free. That's crazy. A lot of times like if you aren't vibing with the therapist, like there's like cancellation fees and like all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's really cool. All right. Let's
Absolutely.
put ourselves back on track here. Um okay, so I know you said you heard a bit about the cast changes. But let's go ahead and talk
Yes.
about that. So,
I do have one more question for you.
go ahead.
You said Mora and Reaper's Wraith mode can't be used when they're hit by movement impairment.
Yes.
Does that include May's left click?
No, I think it's just like things that like holds them in place, you know? So they
Okay.
can't
Yes,
like
like
use it to
stuns
like
and snares.
get out of it, right? Because before, like
Gotcha.
for some reason, like Reaper could just like sayonara out of like Grav. Same with Moira, and it's like,
Yep.
why is that allowed when like Mercy can't fly out or you can't like bap jump out or like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like consistent. And I guess it was because like it was maybe like a different kind of like mobility, like a I don't know, a fade. I don't know how else to describe it other than like they're disappearing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair as well, like I'm pretty sure, and don't quote me on this because this
Mhm.
would have been a change very early on, but I'm pretty sure originally you couldn't do that out of Grav in particular. I'm pretty sure you would not be able
I
to use
think you
any
might be
movement
right.
abilities when you were in grab back in the old. It also used to be huge. I have videos of like me grabbing people that are like off screen pretty much, but um,
Well,
I'm
I
pretty
know
sure
like
you weren't able to use any.
original Grav, like you could use movement abilities out of, and then they like changed it to you couldn't at all. And
Yeah, like
then
the
from
very
that,
first one. Yeah,
yeah, and then like from that they were like, well, Moira and Reaper, they're good. But now they've reverted that.
yeah,
So they're
exactly. That
stuck.
like that's that's how I remember it too. Like pretty much
Mhm.
like beta and like I think season like before they even came out with comp in Overwatch, I'm pretty sure you just kind of waltz out of grab on a lot of different units. But then they were like, no, we don't want to do that anymore. They're like, a while later, once Morahead came out, I think the Mora and Reaper change came as a package.
Mhm.
So because Mora was a post-release character, it would have had to been maybe a few seasons down the road. I don't remember when Mora came out, but then I think at some point after that, they were like, okay, let's make Reaper and Mora able to fade out again.
Mhm.
And now I guess we're like, okay, let's make them not able to fade out again. So I don't know what they're doing. I mean, at
I
least
think
they're
it might be just coming down to like tanks being one, you know? Like so just making the ult just a little bit stronger. I guess it also affects like Junkrat trap though. So I don't know.
true. It's funny
Definitely.
because I think when you used Wraithwalk on a Junkrat trap, you weren't able to actually move still, right? You were just stuck
Yeah, you were
there as a
just
shadow.
stuck. Pretty good though.
Yeah,
Um
but
But
good
yeah,
changes, I guess.
small nerf. I'm good with that. Moira's a little bit too survivable. I was playing some quick play on the nails last night, and I was kind of like 1v3ing in the backline. The enemy team was running like Genji Tracer, Mercy, and I'm just like cackling, ha ha ha. Like, what do you do if
Just
you don't if you
giving
if you
giving them
can't?
the suck.
Yeah, if you can't just like long distance fight Moira, like I feel like she can do whatever she wants. So at least in quick play. Um
Can't wait for them to bring back the damage orb that makes you deal 75% less damage again, like in the beginning of Overwatch 2.
or the
I want that
AoE
so bad.
the AoE fade that they were testing. Oh my god.
Oh, dude, that'd be awesome. I'm pretty sure I faded a few of my teammates into the pit when they did that, or I did something. I don't remember. That was forever ago. That was on. That was when they still had the. Uh, was that after they released the experimental card, or was that when it was still like you had to go on PTR?
I think it was experimental card. I think that was one of the
I think so
first
too.
like
That was a
experimental
long time
cards.
ago, though.
Yeah.
Can I
Okay,
ask another question? Do people still pull teammates off the map as Life Weaver? Is that
you
something that's
can't.
still going on? Okay, what do they do to fix that?
They just made it so I think you stop like right in front of Lifeweaver when he pulls you. So if Lifeweaver was to jump off the map and then pull you, you would stop like right on the edge. Like you I think the only way to do it would be like pull them on top of a pedal and then like break the pedal or something. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Mhm.
I've never heard anything about any changes that fix that, but I haven't heard anyone doing it. I figured maybe they
Yeah.
just got bored.
Yeah, that's part of it. Life for we'll get to his changes, but he's kind of boring to play a little bit. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
get into cast, okay? So first things first, they buffed the range that you can throw it, right? So it no longer has a maximum projectile travel range of 10 meters. So you can just yeet that like across the map. That thing goes, right? So it's kind of like Ananade in a way where it could just like go. And it's funny to see it going because it's a big glowing projectile. It's kind of funny. But yeah, you can throw it, you can like stick it onto like Faras and stuff. Like you can yeet it, right? Um and now this is a new
Okay.
change, right? So the projectile now magnetizes towards an enemy target from 1.5 meters away and chases them for up to 1 second. So they put like a time. Supposedly they put a time limit on it. I've seen some clips of it chasing a tracer through like 3 of her blinks, but we'll see. So supposedly there's a time limit. Um
Okay.
let's get through these. So the impact damage is increased from 0 to 10. So there is a little bit of a damage when it first hits you. And then the explosion damage has been reduced from 120 to 70. So total damage is nerfed. Okay. On just the damage front. But now the stuck targets have their movement slowed by 30%, so it slows you. And then this is a new kind of like defect status effect that they added to the game. Stuck targets are now affected by a hindered status effect, interrupting and preventing movement abilities from being activated. So, in game, right? Uh,
Okay.
it's like when you have hacked come across your screen, right? Which, by the way, they
Yeah.
added like a an accessibility thing for that. That turns the corners of your screen purple, which is really nice. Now it says hindered, right where you would see hacked, and the corners of your screen kind of turn blue, kind of like a nano effect, honestly. Um, yeah.
Okay.
So all in all, you can yeet it. It does less damage. It sticks to you. It can chase you, and it stops all movement abilities. So
And slows you,
yes, and slows you.
and still does damage.
Yeah.
Holy. Okay. So before you tell me how the community has been feeling about this change, I assume people aren't very happy, right?
You'd be wrong.
Really, I'm wrong about that. Give it 2 more weeks, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Because that sounds fucked, man. I'm gonna just say it. That sounds ridiculous. You're still taking 80 damage, 10
Mhm.
from the impact, 70 from the explosion. Now you're also getting slowed. I mean, I guess it's better than being one shot by a left click nade combo.
Right.
I mean, can't be that much better. And you can do it from a distance. Like good casters can just throw it and then basically fish for picks that they can chase on corners. I don't know. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it's been
I don't
it
know.
has been kind of mixed. I will say that the biggest thing is it prevents movement abilities, right? So the biggest thing has been things like ball. It stops ball pile drive, it stops ball roll, it stops any movement ability, so charge, far flying, uh just anything that you can think of just completely stops, right?
How long is that effect?
That I think it's I'm not sure. It's not super long. It just kind of like interrupts it. Like kind of think of like a Sombra hack that they put in, where it just kind of like stops it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
just
it's
I'm
it's
making
not
sure
very
you
long.
can't just start throwing them at Perez and watch them fall off the map from
No,
across the
it's
map.
it's
That'd be
not
kind of
that
funny.
much. Yeah. Um
Okay.
so it just kind of like interrupts it for a second. Which isn't like too crazy of a change, but we've already seen some crazy situations that have been done by it, but it takes like a pretty good timing to do the things that I'm about to say. So Junker Queen, her ult is technically a movement ability, okay? So when you think about the very start of Junker Queen ult, we call it a Junker Jax, okay? Where she like ramps it up and then she's gets to go, right? If you are to be hit with a cast nade at the very start of that, gone. No ult for you. Junker Jaxed. You're out. Right? So
Is this perhaps a reference to Ajaxen?
yeah.
Is that how
Oh
that
yeah.
got made?
Oh
When are
yeah.
we gonna let
Junker
that guy rest,
Jackson.
man?
Nah.
He's been out of the game for like 4 years, hasn't he?
You
When are
want
we
to
gonna
talk
let him
you want to talk about
take
when
a
are we gonna let
break,
it
bro?
rest? C9 has been the thing that we've been saying since before Overwatch League was even a thing. Like way back
But
at
at least
like
C9, at least they're still in the game. This dude hasn't been playing for like 4 years and he's still catching strays over that. This
um
guy probably went off and got a degree or something, and we're still out here like, remember that time you dropped beat on Lucio? It's crazy to me.
there was
Anyway,
another
please
one
continue.
I heard, oh god, where it was like for missing like sigma flexes. I'll have to find it and share it. But yeah, so ultimates can be interrupted. Trying to think what else we've seen. Mostly just like Junker Queen. I think it's um yeah, that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's not like a totally crazy change. Like, I mean, it is, but it's not game breaking, if that makes sense. He's still kind of just he doesn't really have a place like in meta still. And we'll talk about how meta kind of breaks down once we've gone through all the changes. But he's okay. People have been playing him a bit, but not he's not like good enough to where he's being played everywhere. And the movement changes while they're good, and while they are good against Tracer Sombra, which is of course always strong, they don't necessarily like make them unplayable, if that makes sense, right? So I will say one of the other things is if you put your nade on a Sombra, she's unable to translocate. So that is something that is pretty strong as well. Okay, and
Yeah,
Tracer can't recall either or blink, right? Okay, so let's go on to one of the other big changes, okay? So Hanzo, his storm bow, which is just his default bow, okay. His default shooty make shoot. The maximum damage is reduced from 125 to 120. So a little bit of like a damage reduction, but this makes it so he's not able to one shot heroes with 250 HP.
I used to pray for times like these, man. Dude, I'm so happy that snipers are getting nerfed right now. I heard about the Widow changes, and it almost brought a tear to my eye. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know about the Hanzo one, but man, I gotta tell you, this is the right direction. This is where we need to be going as a community, as a country, as a nation, right? This is we need to nerf Widow, and we need to nerf Hanzo. This is good. This
Yeah.
is good. I saw the crying Widowmakers on Twitter, and man, it feels so sweet. Anyway,
Yeah.
please continue.
Yeah, so slight overall damage change. It's nothing too crazy. He's still okay. But it is like a little bit of an overall damage change, which kind of from what I've been seeing has brought Ash a little bit more into the front in terms of when we're talking about like hit scan DPS, right? And I know people are
Good.
gonna say, "Oh, Hanzo's not hit scan." He's being predominantly played by the hit scan player. The flex DPS is just on Tracer forever. Tracer in May, so that's what you get. There's also a bit of a, I think it's a little bit more of a nerf for Hanzo, but just kind of healthier for the game. They also made a sonic arrow easier for the enemy team to see where it is. So it makes a very loud impact sound, and then the visual effect is also for the enemy team. And what I mean by visual effect, it's like the like sonar like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
goes
yeah.
everywhere. Yeah, so now the enemy team can also see that. So it's a lot easier to see where a corner is like sonicked and where you may or may not want to peek, which is honestly
That's good.
yeah, it's a good change. It's a healthy change. Okay, so let's talk about Widow, okay? Because I think this is like the really big one. Um, so Widow has always traditionally not really had like does she have follow up damage in the previous patch? I don't know if she I don't know if
Yes,
she
yes.
did like just
She's
really
had
really
she's
far.
had yeah. Well, yeah, she's had fall off damage since Overwatch One. Believe it
Okay.
or not, since very very long ago. So original Widowmaker did not. Then they gave her fall off, which there was only one instance in the entire game where you would ever actually feel it, and that was standing at the opposite sides of Ilios ruins, where one person was up on the what's it called, like the roof that's right
Yeah,
outside of spawn of
the
Ilios ruins,
pagoda.
right where widows
Yeah.
stand on. It's not really a pagoda because it's Greek. Pagodas are, I believe, Japanese. But
My fault.
anyway,
My bad.
yeah, sorry,
I'll get it right next time.
sorry. Yeah, come on, get it together, okay? We're not uneducated here. We're just stupid. So anyway, there was that was the only instance. And when you would headshot one widow, they'd be alive, and it's only at 200 HP, by the way. They'd be alive at like 10 health, right?
Mhm.
When they brought her back down to 175, that situation vanished. So there was not. They've
Mhm.
had fall off built into the game, but you never felt it because like when do you ever shoot a widow farther than that distance, right?
I don't know.
So it
I'd
existed,
be on
but
Gibraltar third, peeking over like the cliff there. You know what I'm talking about? Anyways, all the way on the first from the.
I do. Yeah, that's crazy for you to do. But go ahead. That's wild.
Okay, so
Please continue.
her scoped shot damage fell off min max range reduced from 70 to 100. Okay, so that was her previous to 40 to 60. That is insane in terms of the difference, right? So
Yeah,
so now it's kind of I've been comparing it. It's more similar to EMP, kind of like the radius. So she has to be a lot closer to the enemy team to actually do damage to them. And with this change, they have not increased her health, so she's still at 175 HP. Um, and then they also said scope shot maximum damage fall off scalar increased from 30 to 50%. So she does a lot less damage further away, the more far
for her
away she
fault.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um so I will say that this has been probably one of the more noticeable changes that I felt in ranked. And she wasn't super played in like scrims or anything, but just in ranked, it's been a blessing. No widows, really. It's been so nice. I love it.
Shocker. It's like the game gets better when one player can't force an entire enemy team to either sit and spawn or change. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that makes the game better when one person can't sit across the map in an
Yeah.
unreachable, undamageable position? Because
And
for whatever reason, all of the heroes that don't have one shots get damage fall off, but the one that can one shot hit scan, no, they can sit all the way across the map and just go dink dink dink, send a full team to spawn in a matter of 5 seconds. What? Please continue.
yeah, so it's been a very healthy change, and I have seen some like damage boost widows, kind of like when Soj was changed originally, but it seems like for once Blizzard has kind of thought ahead, and it doesn't really do much, and except for increase the range a little bit, so she can reach a little bit further with the damage boost, but it doesn't make it so she can go across the map like she could before.
Yeah, that's not Blizzard thinking ahead. That just has circumstance. Trust me. But go ahead.
Okay, so snipers a little bit less strong. I think Hanzo will end up being the default pick over Widow, even though he kind of already was. Um, Tracer got a small change. Um, that they said was originally a bug. They said we uncovered a bug that was in setting Tracer's maximum weapon spread smaller than intended. And so they increased her spread by 15%, which, you know what? I hate Tracer. So I'm
It's
fine with that.
15.
Yes.
It's actually quite a bit, but okay,
Yeah. I'm
whatever. I
I'm good with
also hate
that.
Tracer. So
Yeah. L to Tracer players, but I'm fine with that. There was
look, it's
also
not the Tracer. It's not that she doesn't require skill, right? Unlike some of the other heroes that got very big nerfs this recent change. Okay, and I'll go to the grave saying that it doesn't take that much skill to play Widowmaker. You just have to aim well.
Yeah.
She's not that
No,
skillful when you take
Tracer
into
is
account
definitely
everything.
like highest skill ceiling for sure.
Yes, but she's also very annoying at the same time. So, do I feel good about feeling good about it? No. Do I still feel good about it? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts exactly. Like, is it healthy for the game? I don't know, but you know what? I don't like Tracer, so. Okay, so there was a pretty significant change to May. So her in previous patches, they buffed her left click, which is her endothermic blaster left click, the spray. And they made it so it did a lot of damage. So it did 100 damage per second, right? And this made it so May no longer was wanted to right click at all. It was simply better to just get in your face and just spray the whole team. Like you had like raid
Yeah.
and the enemy team was a spider and you're just getting them, right? So
Uh,
they reduced that by a lot. So it went from 100 damage per second to 55, and they increased the slow. So before it had a cap at 40%, it was always a 40% slow, and now it starts from 30 and then scales up to 50. So it slows you more, but starts
wow.
lower. It kind of ramps up like sim left click. This is the more interesting change. Primary fire impacts now build up a slowing effect that sticks to the enemy target for 1.5 seconds and slows them for 75. So it's kind of like she has like half of her freeze back. Like you have like a if she's freezing you, you can be really 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 slow, 75% slow. Um, and now when you are slowed, her secondary fire, so her right click, the icicle that she throws, can now detonate the new slow effect, dealing an additional 40 damage. And if it's a headshot, it's a lot more than that. So she kind of has this
Ooh,
new like combo she can do where she slows
yeah, I
you
like that.
and then she can detonate like an icicle on you. And it does a lot. So we moved away from the raid killing May of, you know, just spraying you down and more into like she has to kind of like hit this combo. So um
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I mean, to be real with you, before the first May buff, she felt like she was pretty balanced to me, honestly.
Mhm.
She felt strong enough to be like a good pocket pick, someone you pull out in certain maps or
Yep.
when you need like a certain like basically when there was a massive tank difference in rank, May would be one of the characters I sort of lean to help me sort of tune that a little bit. And now it's like I don't really know if she needed all of this, but I do like the sound of it at the same
Mhm.
time. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to trying it and seeing how this combo goes. It seems very interesting. I do like that they're doing more interesting things,
Mhm.
but I'd rather the heroes get taken care of first. Although they did, take care of the one, so can't be too upset, I guess. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
That's
so
my thoughts, really. Probably didn't need it, but it's interesting nonetheless.
yeah. So May, I haven't really seen a decrease in her playtime. She still is pretty good. Um, the additional slow that she gives kind of gives her more of an opportunity to confirm kills from what I've seen. In like competitive. Uh like scrims. So she'll wall somebody, maybe they'll start breaking the wall, right, to get them out, and then, you know, the person will get slowed and then comboed. So it gives her a little bit more of like, okay, we could really get this kill rather than like just kind of playing like a Reaper and just kind of like spraying everybody in the front line, you know? And then walling behind them and saying, "Oh, well, you're stuck in here with me now."
Yep. Enjoy the raid. I hear you.
Yeah. So I don't think it's gonna change her too much. It just gave a little bit more of an interesting dynamic. Um, Nothing too crazy. Lifeweaver, however, has seen a bit of a number change on pretty much all of his abilities. So let's get through this really quick because we're almost out of time here. So Healing Blossom, so this is his default ability. The maximum healing has been increased from 65 to 75. So that means you're just able to heal, charge up more with one blossom and heal a little bit more. His alternate fire, so his Thorn Volley, damage per projectile increased from 5 to 6. Projectile radius increased from zero point 0.1 to 0.1.25. I don't really know if that's going to do anything. Not not anything noticeable at least.
It's a 25% buff to the range, I guess.
Yeah, barely. And then the ammo increased from 60 to 70. So he got an overall buff to his uh primary and alternate fire, right?
Hmm.
His pedal platform, they increased the walkable area by 15%. So it's a little bit bigger. And the area to trigger lift now shrinks from a radius of 2 to 0.75 meters after initial placement. So once it's down on the floor, you have to be standing more directly on it to actually trigger it to lift you up. You can't just like stand on the edge and then be like, hee hee hee, I'm up now. You have to actually like be more directly on it. Um,
Yeah, got
Life grip cooldown now reduced from 20 to 16 seconds, which is actually very substantial. I'm seeing as that's probably his strongest ability. And it now heals the ally for 50 health when you hold it. And then small thing, the Tree of Life ultimate cost increased by 8%, but his ult sucks anyways, so that's wonderful. Thank you, Blizzard.
yeah. What does his ult even do again? It makes you like take less damage, right?
No, it's a giant tree he throws down, right? That's like wall, like you can break it. But it does like something like 150 HP instantly and then 50 HP every like 1.5 seconds. So it's like a
Oh, I thought it
weird
gave
like
you damage
slow.
reduction. It just heals you.
No, it just heals you. Yeah.
Wow, that's terrible. I thought it was a little bit better than it was. I didn't think it was much. I was like, yeah, it feels like maybe I do 15% less damage or something. That's horrible.
No, yeah,
Okay,
it's just
anyway,
like a
sorry.
slow heal. It's nothing crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah, so thoughts.
Good they're changing him. He kind of sucks and is boring at the same time. He's not even like,
Yeah,
it's not even
he's
that he
really
sucks in
boring.
his, it's not that he sucks in his fun or is good, he's boring. It's just he sucks and he's boring. He's just a bad character. So I'd love for them to change that and maybe make him a good character, without overdoing it. Hopefully, but yeah, I mean, good changes, good direction to go. Just
Yeah.
start slowly amping things up and seeing what breaking points there are and stuff. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So
I
I don't
agree.
know. Seems
Yeah. I'm thankful that they're slowly buffing him. I don't think it'll be enough to actually make him played. But unfortunately, we are out of time. I did want to talk to you about some more teaser stuff that we got this week, but maybe that will have to wait until next week. So,
yeah, that's gonna have to wait.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
All right.
Either way, it was good talking to you again.
Yeah,
This
I
is a fun
know.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out and saying hi as always. Yeah, and this has been Overtalk. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week. Goodbye, y'all.
Bye.